Now, I want to give you a background a little bit about who Tiffany and I are, um, and a little bit about the program workshop itself and what it's intended to be. So, if you go to the ChloroFilm show concept and guidance document, it'll provide you some information there. And I'm going to just sort of highlight that in a general sense. So, both Tiffany White and myself, the executive producers of this project, are average citizens. The project came from Tiffany. She had the idea to create a television show that was different and entertaining, excuse me, about green living in Washington, D.C. Now, this is a workshop, and we are going to focus on pressing issues such as global warming, how to improve your home in a green way, energy efficiency, green jobs, and most importantly, how you as an individual, as a viewer, can participate in the green movement to help your community. Now, this is going to be very different from other shows that you've perhaps seen on television in the sense that typical green show programs are news magazine shows. They go and they show you how to do things. They talk about things. Well, this is going to be a fairly entertaining thing. Many of you have heard me talk about this as a Sesame Street for adults about Washington, D.C. greened. And what we're going to do is we're going to rely on commercial formats such as sketch comedy, drama, documentary where it applies, animation, um, all the things that you'd probably see on television on a routine basis. We're going to use those at our disposal to make a very entertaining 30 minutes time slot of education and informative material. Now, Tiffany has a lot of experience in the social grassroots organizing, providing information to people from her time at CASA, Children's Hospital, and she's worked all around Washington, D.C. and helping improve the lives of its residents and citizens, particularly its youth. She does volunteer quite often with I think the Green Festival, but I'll leave her to tell you more about that later. Myself, I am also a native Washingtonian. I have experience in theater and film, writing, production, mostly independent though, self-produced work. But again, the purpose of all of this is for all of us to bring our insights together and create a very interesting project. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the impetus for Tiffany's vision. Um, she basically watched The Inconvenient Truth, and that got encouraged her to figure out what could she do in her world. Also, she had these 3 plastic bottles. While disposing of 3 large plastic bottles, Tiffany thought that it's a lot of trash for just one person. It's bulky and cumbersome. What must a trash dump look like? So that she wanted to find out. She also had a disinterested friend who basically felt helpless about what she could do. And so what we want to do is help to provide real resources to our target audience, which is our families and other community residents in the Washington, D.C. area, on how they can feel empowered to take action in their communities. Now, we do have 5 values that we want to promote, which we feel are green values. Community, we are all tied together. There's love and relationships are important. Health and healing is our second value. Our third value is hope. Our fourth value is fiscal savvy. We want to make sure that people are using more efficient ways of, living, energy. And when you do that, you'll tend to find that a lot of times when you're recycling and reducing, you'll save money. So that's our fourth value. And then also we want to make sure that this is very personal, that this isn't something that is like pie in the sky that, can't be achieved by you, but actually something that you directly can affect. Okay. Now, you'll see in the show film concept and guidance document that there are sort of a template for what this format of the show will be like. We plan to have a cold opening, which is essentially just like what you'd see on Friends before they, clip to the do 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 do. It's just an introduction to get you warmed up and excited about the show, so that you'll come back if they go to a commercial break. We'll have opening credits. We'll have an introduction to the show, and then we'll have a lot of segments that will be interrupted by commercial breaks throughout the show. And then we'll have a closing, perhaps some outtakes with some credits as well. All right, so I'm going to just take a second and let you read this section on the creative teams. I know some of you read fast, but for some of us we read a little slower. I'll give a little more time. Now in this section, I want to just highlight that we're looking at commercial entertainment media, such as sketch TV, cooking, artistic, which is drama, spoken word, music, etc., game shows, cartoon, animation. We are encouraging micro-series, we'll talk about what that is, and we also are discouraging document style segments. However, if you have something that you think is really compelling and it needs to be told through documentary style, bring it. Let's talk about it. We do not want to have news, however, because that's pretty much what's out there already, and we want to get people feeling very comfortable. Now, there'd have to be extreme imperative reason for us to do some sort of news segment on the show, but again, we're open to consideration. But again, it's got to be an imperative. Now, I'm only going to spend a little bit of time in terms of talking about what these are, but I have provided some information here in this document which talks about the different storytelling conventions that you'll find in television. Some of these titles are things I've just created as a shorthand, but one-off is typically a show that just happens one time. The internal episode serial is something that we would have maybe 3 sort of continuing segments on the same topic that are related. A serial film, or much like those which you would remember in the silver age of television and film, when you'd have the car that would go, and then in the next episode the person would roll out of the car, and then it would continue like that. You see a lot of that now with Heroes. They have on their web episodes. Battlestar Galactica also has some of that, which is a pretty good example. Now, a micro-series is something different. A micro-series is actually an independent episode that could stand on its own, but it usually is less than 7 minutes. So it's a complete self-sustaining episode, and the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series is a good example of that. And I suggest that you take a look at those 3 clips that we found for you and put into the favorites list. In a meta-series, we can talk a little bit more about that later on, but essentially is a coexisting world, similar to spin-offs, but different in the sense that they are not actually spin-offs, but concurrent storylines. So that gives you, I think, a general sense of what this show is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as you'll get understanding a little bit more of how the different pieces are going to fit together. But I do want to. There's some things that we haven't figured out, and these are some things that we're going to figure out in the development process. Each segment will have a specific educational objective, and so we will be relying on you to help in that development.